Okay, for those of you joining us now, I've created a folder on my desktop called Grade 11 Zoom Session. And inside my folder is a database. And the name of the database is MCADB. Right, so we've created a file new VCL forms application. And what we're going to do now is save this in the same folder that's sitting on a desktop. So file, save all. Going to my desktop, grade 11, and I'm going to call it G11 Zoom _U. Save. And then we're going to go G11 Zoom _P for project. All right. So that's just giving it a name. Now that we have that, I'm just going to run that. Okay, so we have no errors. Okay, now we're going to create a data module. So I'm going to click on File. Now this is important, okay? File, New, and you go to Other. And when you come to Other, you see a whole lot of stuff happening. But where we want to go is Delphi Files. Make sure you're clicking on Delphi Files. Once you got your Delphi file, you choose on a data module. And you say, okay. And this is what will come up. I'm going to make it a little bigger. The first thing I'm going to do is save this. Once again, save in the same folder. So I'm going to File, Save As. And for now, we're just going to call it DM. Okay? So you know it's a data module. So I'm going to keep it simple. _U for unit. We're in the same folder called Grade 11 Zoom Session. Save. Now, Microsoft has created some components for us. It's the Addo component that allows us to talk to a database. In other words, to interact with their database called Microsoft Access. So, the first thing you're going to choose is Addo. That's all you're going to remember, ADO. Firstly, we need a connection. Now, this is the connection that will connect the physical database on the hard drive, or on the disk, I should say. Now, these are all Microsoft components. The next thing you want to do is the Addo table. And this connects to the table on the disk. And then we need a data source. So these are the three components which are very important to us. And the data source connects to the table, and the table connects to the actual database. We are not interested in swatting the code. This will all be given to you. In an examination, you don't have to know all this. The connections are all done for you. For the project, you just got to copy and paste this code and learn how to manipulate it. All right, so now that we've done that, I'm going to click on File, Save. Okay, I was just giving you some time. Can I go on? Are we all on the same page here?
I'm done.
Same
Right.
thing. So,
Now comes the actual coding. Now, the code is very complex, and you don't have to know this code, but what you need to know is how to manipulate it. So I did give you a Word document with the code, but where you have to go now is, if you click on Events, on the left, you have Properties and you invent. You must go to On Create. So if you double click on Create, and you'll know you're in the right place, because you would see T data module 1 dot data module create. And the connection code that I gave you on the page, which I told you to copy and paste, which I'm going to do now. Do we have that code with you? Do you have a copy of that Word document? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, it's on the, I think it's on the Moodle, or I sent it to you. So if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to follow me. How can I share that quickly with you? Any ideas?
I'm not sure whether it's on MS Teams. Is it, sir?
I can't remember myself. Anybody else can give us feedback where it is? So nobody has access to this code at this stage. Where is Rebecca? She's quite clued up normally. Rebecca?
Sir, it's on the WhatsApp group, so maybe if we email it to ourselves and then copy and paste from there.
Thank you. So it's on the WhatsApp group. I think I have it on the Moodle as well. Now, you need this code because you're going to copy and paste it, and then I'm teaching you how to manipulate it. So should I give you some time to get the code in? Yes or no? Okay, nobody's talking to me. Let me move on. The only thing you need to do, okay, let me explain a little this code. Add connection one dot close. If there are any other connection, if there was a connection, we're now closing any connections, right? That's more safety measure. This is the one that links to the direct part of the Microsoft Access database, which, as I told you, you don't have to know. It's a very complicated part. All you got to know is right here, that's where your database name goes. So my database is MC ADB. So it needs to go right there. Now remember, the extensions is where we're going to have a hassle, and my page has the code. We all could be using different versions of Access. Now, if you right click on the properties, you should see what's the extension. ACCDB is an extension for the Access 2016. If you got an older version of Access, I have an alternate code to connect on the page on the WhatsApp group. So the extension here is very important, or you would not be able to connect. Right, then this is the actual connection. Add connection one dot login prompt is assigned false. We set this to false so people don't have to actually log in with a password. Add connection one dot open. We have now opened the connection. Then the table dot connection is linked to the actual physical add connection one. And then we need to set the table name. Add table one dot table name is assigned, and this is where you're going to put your table name. I think mine is called TB flights. And then we set our data source. Data source one dot data set is assigned the addo table, which is the table flights. Now, as I said, we don't need to know this code for examination purposes. All we got to be able to do for our project, you just got to know where to change your name. And in the examination, you don't have to link. All linking is done for you. I'm talking about a grade 12 exams. Even a grade 11 exam, I will test the database, by the way, end of the year. So all this is not for you to learn, but it's nice just to understand this is the code that actually links to the database. So this is happening in the background. Okay, can I move on?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to save that. Now, nothing will happen if you run. This is just linking to a database, okay? But I just want to run it to see if there's any errors. Okay, my form comes up. I'm quite happy. Okay, so what we got to remember here, I want to emphasize that name of the database. If you spell this wrong, it won't pick it up. You spell your table name wrong, you're going to get an error. Now, the name of this database is very important, so I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to click copy. I know it's DM_U. Now I'm going to go to grade 11 Zoom. This is my actual GUI that I'm working with. So I'm going to go to the code. Now to link that, you got to go to your user section, put a comma, the name of the database, DM_, sorry, not database, the name of the data module. So that allows me for this unit to talk to the DM unit. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to return to design. So I need a GUI to be able to hold the table. Remember, Microsoft Access has a table. So my job is to create user component, and we use what we call a DB grid. So we have a DB grid that looks like this. And when you run it, you'll see a grid comes up empty. So what we want to do now is link to the database, which is already done, but we need that table to appear on this grid. Now, the name of this grid is very important to us since we're going to be using it in code. Now, the name of this grid is DB grid 1. We leave it, we won't change the name. So when you're typing, we can all use the same name. But if you want to change it, that's fine later on. So remember, my name of my grid here is DB grid 1. Now, what I'm going to show you is quite useful. A component we use here. Okay. Now, if we go to on show, click on events. I'm going to click on the form firstly. Make sure you clicked on the form, T form 2. And if we go to events, and I want you to go to on show. Now, if you type code in on show, that means that it will happen automatically without activating a button. That means we don't need to use a button. Normally, all the programming you've done, you had to click on a button for something to happen. But what if you wanted a program to run and something happens immediately, whatever code you wrote, so that you don't have to actually use a button? So where you'll throw the code is in on show. As soon as you run it, whatever you type, whatever you want the program to do will happen. So we're going to use on show, events on show. Did everyone find that button? Sorry, did everyone find on show? Ali, did you find it?
Yep.
Right. So we're on show. I'm going to double click on show, and it takes me. Now we're ready to type. So we're looking for a data module, the DATA. Control space. I want to see what the computer called it, and you'll see it's called it data module 1 because we've linked to the DM. So the first thing we're going to do is say data module 1 dot addo table dot open. We're opening the connection to the table, and then we're going to set DB grid 1 dot data source. And we're assigning the data source, or we're linking the DB grid 1 to, and remember, I just want to show you this. If we go back to the DM, we see we have data source 1. So our DB grid has to be linked to data source 1 because this is the actual page that is being linked to the database. So coming there, we're going to say data module 1 dot data source 1, and that's it. These 2 lines of code is all you need to learn. So it's data module 1, that's the name of our connection coming from the previous one, data module 1 dot addo table 1 dot open, and then we set the grid DB grid 1 dot data source is assigned data module 1 dot data source 1. If we don't want to keep on saying data module 1, we can use a would do statement. We'll talk about that later. So if I run this, let's see what happens. And you can see my database that I have is now linked to Delphi, and all the information has now appeared onto my DB grid. So it's working like a charm. I haven't set it to a menu. I've just wanted to show you the link. And that's the link. Any questions? Nobody has a question for me. Chloe, how are you?
Mr. Maestri, I don't think Chloe's on the call.
Yeah, she is. She's joining now. That's why I called her name out. It's on a participant showing someone is trying to join us. I'm checking if she's able to get in. Maybe she's got a network issue. All right, she's in. Very late you joining the lesson, Chloe. Maybe a mic is off. Okay, any question? Okay, let's start from one side. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
You're gonna try it out, Motiram?
Yes.
Westwood?
Yes, sir, I'm good too.
Bukan?
Yes, sir.
Ramdani?
Yes, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay, so now, if you don't practice this, you're not gonna know. I need to know what errors you're picking up, all right? Or we're gonna have major problems. So one of the things we want to kickstart or we're gonna get started is called your project. And I'm gonna go now into the project and show you how to start your project off. So that even if school is closed in the next 4 weeks, we've got people working on projects, etc. Let's talk to you guys. Since you all are in grade 11 here, how do you think we should carry on for the next 4 weeks now that school is closed? Talk to me. Give me some pointers.
Mr. Maestri,
Yes.
I feel like this online lesson idea is quite a good one, except maybe could we have 2 short lessons instead of 1 long one, so that we could have 1 lesson where you teach us for about 30 minutes, and then we have about 15 minutes to half an hour where we troubleshoot the problem.
Good idea. Any other comments? Westwood, give us some input there. For the next 4 weeks, what you expecting?
So I think like if you do this to like explain a section or of the work, and then we practice it for a week, and then do that 15-minute lesson after the week, and any problems we found while trying it, we can try to fix it.
Okay, very good point. Anybody else? Give us some comments there, Bukan.
I don't have any. I'm okay with it.
You see, our problem from a teaching perspective is we're not getting, we're only getting 50% attendance in a Zoom session. Do you understand our problems? We can run Zoom sessions if we were getting more people on board. You're understanding our problem on this side.
Yes, sir.
I actually want to, in future, from next year, I will only offer IT online. There will be no physical lessons. What do you think about that idea?
I honestly prefer the in-person lessons, Mr. Maestri, but online could also work.
All right, people, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to start the project off. Okay, now we are recording this, so I can put this recording up as well for those that are not here. So let's now start a new project. I'm going to save this. I want you to close down everything else. Okay, so we want to start a project. So I'm going to give you the start so that you can start, and then we can look at what problems you're having. So you're going to click on File, New, and the first thing you're going to do is start with your VCL. Now, when you start a project off, you need to have a switchboard. That's very important in a project. So this is going to be my switchboard, and you can start off by giving it a name. Let's go into caption so you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to give this form a caption, which I normally don't name forms. Right, so caption, this is going to be my main menu. Okay, so I don't know if you know what a switchboard is, but this is going to basically link to everything we want to do in a project. So in your main menu, you need a label. So let's throw in a label. And a good name for this label here in the caption side will be menu. And it's a little small, so I'm going to bring that, make that a little bigger for you. And let's make it look a little pretty, give it a little bit of a color. Okay. So did you manage to do that on your computer? I want you to work with me on this one.
Okay, I've got it.
All right. Now, very, very important is that we got to make sure we're saving all this in one folder, because remember, this is now going to be quite a big program when we finish off. So you're going to say File, Save All. And notice I didn't make a folder for this. So very quickly, I'm going to go to Desktop. And then I'm going to right click there and say New. And we're going to call it G11, grade 11 project. You can call yours whatever you want. I'm just going to call it grade 11 project 2020. So every week I can build on this. Okay, so we got a grade 11 project 2020. And the first thing it wants a name. Now, because this is my main menu, I'm just going to say M for my main menu. Or to make it simple, menu, M menu underscore U. Save, M menu underscore P for project. Okay, so if this is your main menu, we're going to first create our first button on the menu, BUT. Now, there can be two sides to your, when you start a project, you're thinking long term. One side of your project is for your database controlling. And the other side could be for just user information. Right, that's just giving an idea. Or you could just have whatever buttons you want, okay? So I'm going to call this, the first button is, give it a name. And we're going to say BTN for button, view. And we're going to say view table. Okay, no. So view. I don't know what to view, but let's say view flights, because it's dealing with flights, okay? So when somebody clicks this button, it must take them to another form which will show the actual database, okay? Then I'm going to have another button just to get you into the kind of seeing the big picture of where we're going. And this button here, we're going to call button BTN. Maybe we want to insert, so we can say add. Okay, so we just got two buttons for now. So when somebody clicks on button view flights, we want another form to open, and that form will show the database. This could be just a help facility. So we're going to call this BTN help, BTN. Maybe this will link to a text file later on. Oh, I don't know why I did that, but anyway, should be on this side. That should be called BTN help, which will basically link to some text file we'll create later. All right, now, so I want to now bring in another form. Remember this, your main menu will be run with a VCL. So we're going to click on File, New, and we will bring in a form, a Delphi form. And that's what the Delphi form looks like. Okay. So what happens is when somebody clicks on button view flights, we must go to this form here. And what is this form going to show? The table. So I'm going to save this form, File, Save As, make sure I'm in the same folder. And this will be called FRM for form. And we said this is just to view. So we can say form view underscore U for unit. Now, does anyone know what's the code for us to click in here on the button so that that form shows? Talk to me. People are quiet. Haven't you watched my video on main menu?
We have, sir, but it's been a while.
Been a while. Westwood, what code do we need to type in the button so that we can view the other form?
I can't remember, sir.
Hey, Motiram.
Isn't it the show modal?
Hey, somebody's with me. All right. Now, the first thing you have to do, if you want to link, remember we want to link from main menu to this form. You got to use in your user section. So you got to copy the form name first. And I like to copy so we don't make any typing errors. Sometimes if you spell it wrong, it's not going to pick up. Then you go to main menu. And right on the top on the user section, control paste, comma. So that allows us to talk to this form. Without that, we cannot talk to form view, okay? That's the point of the user section. But we also want to give this form a name. We haven't given this, sorry, let's go back. There's our form. Let's give this form a name. So we're going to go down to name. And we're going to say FRM form view. Now that's its actual name. And you'll see changes there, form view. The names are very important because in a project, you're going to be creating at least about 10 forms. So you need to know what is happening. So the names we use are absolutely crucial now. So returning to my main menu, design. So if I double click on this, okay, I'm just going to run this. I just want to, so that everything gets saved and it registers. So what's going to happen if I double click on this? Let's go there slowly. If I double click on this button and I type in FRM, I should pick up that form name. And remember, we don't want the unit, we want the variable name. So it's the variable name and it's called form view. And somebody said dot show modal. And now if we run it, so if I click on button view, can you see that that form view comes up? Okay, can we get that to work very quickly? Give you some time.
Mr. Maestri,
Yes.
we can't see when you run the program. We just keep seeing the code.
Yeah, you won't see because I'm not sharing the running screen on you. Is that okay? Let's see if I can share that as well. I wonder why. So if we run that, you're still not seeing my running screen, huh?
Yeah, it's still not visible.
Now?
Yeah.
You can see it. Very good. All right, so you're seeing the running screen now, okay? But if I close that, can you now see my code?
Yes.
And there's no running on it, am I right? The GUI is not up. Right. Okay, let me know as we're going along, right, what we're not seeing. Okay, so that's the first thing that you need to do when we're starting the project. So we have a main menu. We can change the captions a little later. I just want to keep the names for you to see. Okay, now that that's working, we got to now link this to the database. Now remember, Ali, what are you seeing now?
We're inside the file.
Very good. Are you seeing desktop now?
Yes.
Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to create a new database. So all I'm going to do is copy my other database and throw it in here into the Zoom one, all right? Not Zoom one, project one. So I copied my same database. I'm going to go to the grade 11 and just paste it in here, and it's called MCADB, just to show you how this works again. So, Ali, are you back onto my Delphi screen?
Yes, sir.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing now. We're going to bring in the data module. So file, new, other. So it's good revision. Data module. As you can see, it needs a name. So we're going to say file, save as. Make sure it's in the right folder. And I'm just going to call it DM again. And if you want to give it a more specific name, then keep it in name to a project. So because this is a project, you might want to say DM flights as an example. All right. This is a data module for flights. Underscore U4 units. So we have our data module. And if you remember, we need three things. We need an adult connection. We need an adult table. And we need a data source. Okay, so we have our three components. We can file, save all. So now, remember, it's a little bit tricky now because the form view needs to display the table, not the main menu. So because I want the table displayed on form view. So right in the form view, I'm going to bring in what we call a DB grid. Okay. Right, so we have our grid. Now we're going to go back to the data module. I didn't type in the connection code. So now I'm going to connect. So I got to go to events and on create. And all I'm going to do is copy that code that is on your WhatsApp group. And I explained this before. All we got to do now is change the name. See, I've got the DB name on the original. So remember to change it to your name. And mine is called MCADB. And change the table name. There's only two things you need to change. TB flights. Okay. So I'm going to save that. Save all. All right, we have that. So our connection is written on data module create. Remember that. Make sure you data module create. Right. Once I've done that, I'm going to return to form view. For me to talk to the DM, I got to go right to the top and put comma, whatever the DM name is. So I'm returning to DM. And the best thing always to do is to copy and paste. So copy and paste. All right. So we have that. Returning to our design. So what we want to happen is as soon as this form comes up, we want the code to, the table to link and display. So if you remember from the earlier, click on the form and then you're going to on show. Now, sometimes if you're clicking on a DB, you're in the wrong place and you won't find our on show. Can you see that? So make sure you're on the form. And then we go to on show under events. And that's where we need to put in the code. And if you remember from the earlier version, on show, we're going to say, right, data module, just type in data. It'll tell you what the module, if it doesn't come up, something may come up as a 2 or a 3. So use whatever comes up. Data module 1 dot addo table 1. And remember, it must come up if you're typing anything else. If it doesn't come up, then you're wasting your time. Then open. So that opens the connection. And then we're going to set the data source to be the DB grid. So DB grid 1 dot data source is assigned data module 1 dot data source 1. And that's the only two. If you change the name, then change your names there. And if we run this right now, it should work, hopefully. Let's cross our fingers. Here's my main menu. I've created a project. It's going to have a lot of buttons here. But one of the buttons is we come there and it views the table. And when we close this, it doesn't close the program. It allows me now to go to another button. So this is our switchboard controlling the entire project. Any comments?
Nope, all good.